There is a narrative that has been told and retold and retold. And basically, that is one day humans become food. Whether that is being recycled into the human and animal food supply or alien food supply. It is a legitimate fear for people to not want to become food for anything. But we know that things like aquamation and water cremation exist. So we know that somewhere, someone's biological remains are contributing to the fertilizer on someone's lawn or crops, commercial crops. The Twilight Zone episode, To Serve Man, was a rendering of alien beings coming to Earth to help us. And they stop war, famine, hunger, increase food production. They did all this to make the human population healthy. That way, they could ship people to their planet and eat them. Now that would make a lot more sense than trying to poison us, make us sick, weaken our bodies, and then ship us off to the aliens. No matter what the nutrient is they are trying to get out of us, they aren't going to get much if that person is starving and sick. Now, those of you who have followed David Wilcock's work and others like him, you understand that the alien world is a very fanciful world, a very hidden, a very secret world. And if you were an alien being visiting Earth, truly benevolent beings wouldn't, unless they had something to contribute. The benevolent ones are the ones who would come as the Canaanites did, in the form of a lie. The evidence that is available to prove that a reptilian alien race exists is very evasive. It is just like anything that we consider to be paranormal, like ghosts. To this day, it remains difficult to acquire evidence of their existence. But we do know that there is something out there, or some things out there. We are struggling to understand. So we have names for them, don't we? Apparitions, ghosts, spirits, angels, demons. And the reality is, these are things we really don't need evidence to prove they exist, do we? I think when it comes to spirits, for us, it's more of a matter of energy and good and evil. When we get into alien beings and humanize them as physical beings, like us, flesh and blood, that doesn't require quantum physical evidence. Now, whether reptilian aliens exist or not, there does remain a draconian agenda. We all know that this stuff can sound way out there, very esoteric and just outright ridiculous sometimes, right? You know, when you read stories about these alien beings, you often, quite often actually, hear about fourth, fifth, and other dimensions. You hear about elevating consciousness, ascension, right? Aren't those the same things the devil tempted Eve with? Aren't they? Did he not tell her that God was oppressing her and she would only reach her full potential and ascend and become like God if she ate from the tree of knowledge, when it wasn't so much the fruit of the tree, but the act of defying God, which was the awakening? After all, who would know better about defying God than Satan? Why do you think these alien beings always channel the same message? That we were once higher dimensional beings that got stuck here somehow. There are several stories, as you know, and they want to help us ascend. This is the same temptation Satan used on Eve. You tell me how it's different. Now, reptilians, in their evolution, lived on 2 planets. A planet near Draconis, a star, and Earth. Because they reside on 2 planets, there are 2 different types of reptilians. The draconian reptilians, they are the warriors, the lying, evil, violent reptilians. And the reptoids, who are more peaceful, they live here on Earth. They say that the draconian reptilians had evolved to the point where they were no longer dependent on the needs of the physical body. For example, they no longer needed to ingest or digest solid food for energy. But if they wanted to absorb pure energy, because of their evil nature, that energy has to be pure evil energy. Now, following this lore, the Draconians are the ones responsible for creating the gray alien race, which is a clone slave race of alien. They were also a source of food. So, as their numbers increased, the gray aliens became more aware and decided to revolt against the reptilians to move forward with their own agenda. The reptilians then began to look for sources of food on other planets, but needed a source of evil energy. So they sent out a fleet of ships to search. They had supposedly stumbled upon Earth, became aware of the benevolent reptoids living there, but were more interested in the human beings. Now I want to stop here because think about that for a moment. In Genesis, there exists this serpent being that was here before man. And these draconian reptilians, like the Watchers, came down to Earth to utilize the human population for their own agenda. A very similar story in several respects, right? Also, these draconian reptilians needed to get rid of the reptoids in order to move forward with their plans. In today's world, they have integrated and established themselves so deeply within the foundations of our cultures and governments, they continue to aid in our movement toward corruption and evil. This is just one story out of dozens and dozens of reptilian narratives, and many of them are very inconsistent. I will say this, with all the other alien races taken into consideration, there are only a few types that are consistently talked about or reported to be encountered. The tall whites, the grays, and the reptilians. Sometimes you have insectoid encounters, but those are 4 big ones. They are the alien races that are significant in history. The serpent is widely represented and worshipped across many different cultures and religions around the world. And you have ancient mythos mixed with current historical events, documentation, sightings, footage, cases, leaked information. It is not hard to believe that there is something there. Each author, whether it is David Wilcock or David Icke, they have their own variations of these stories. There are those who believe that one day the governments of the world may attempt a hoax or fake alien invasion. Or perhaps we may be invaded by a force of real aliens. With that said, if you were an advanced race of beings able to travel to this planet to invade it, you probably would not use a primitive method like sending a fleet of spaceships to line up outside the Earth's orbit to cause fear and panic. No, you would over time, while keeping your distance, cause confusion and distress. You would cause the humans to fight among themselves, while only making hints as to your presence. So by the time the humans realize that you are already there, you are in the final stages of the invasion. So you could sit back and watch the US and Russia go back and forth. Who owns what piece of land? Who has nuclear weapons? Who's dismantling them? Who's putting them together? What's Afghanistan doing? And Iran? Who is invading who? Then you have people saying they've seen UFOs. Others saying they don't exist. You would only keep in contact with entities that would protect you, like certain government agencies. And you would do this to all governments to hold your secrets in exchange for some technology or resources. You could extort humans for their resources, you see? You see, one of the tricks that these entities like to play on us is that they are always trying to convince people that this is not our home, that we don't belong here. And so you end up with all these people who want to believe this. Star seeds, right? The agenda is to destroy and remove us from the planet and eat us while doing so. You may have heard David Wilcock mention meat wagons. Basically, people are loaded into buses and driven directly into underground bases. And that's the last you hear from them. In certain locations around the world, school buses have gone missing. Now, if these draconian reptilians need to poison our bodies with negative energy before they can consume us, then yes, everything that is going on right now with this experiment makes sense if you want to go down that route. It can explain why we keep hearing about fake meat, why we keep hearing about hybridization and chimeras and transhumanism. These things are all up and floating in the air right now, and we breathe it all in to become what? Someone's dinner on their experimental plate, or we just end up injured or worse. This was just a thought I wanted to share with you guys for today, to go along with some other topics of discussion, as well as a few topics I have discussed in the past. There is more to come, so please stay tuned. Be sure to visit woodwardentertainment.com and the Woodward Entertainment Store. You can follow me on Instagram at jwoodward. I feel like we are closing in on a crazy truth here very soon, folks. But until next time, as always, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.